Okay, good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the June 11th Finance Committee meeting to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Member Cahill.
Here.
Member Chaplin.
Here.
Member Childress.
Yes.
Member Covert.
Here.
Member Desart. Member Eckhoff. Member Evans.
Here.
Member Galassi.
Here.
Member Garcia.
Here.
Member Guston. Member Krajewski. Member LaPlante. Member Ozak. Member Rutledge.
Here.
Member Schwarzy. Member Tornatori. Member Yu.
Here.
Member Zay.
Okay, great. We have a quorum. Do we have any public comment this morning? Okay, no public comment. We're moving on to item 4, Chairwoman's remarks. As of yesterday, we had 1,332 responses to our budget survey. So that's really great. Last year when we did our budget survey, the first week we had about 1,200, so we're a little bit above that. If I could ask everybody to please share that link on your social media and whatever other means you have. And Joan just informed me that a few of the municipalities have shared our link, so we're going to have a list of those for county board. So it's really great that we're getting a nice response to the budget survey. And with that, we move on to approval of minutes. Can I have a motion on 24/17/08? Yes, 17/08 Finance Committee meeting minutes from May 28th, 2024. Motion by Member Glassy, or did you have a question? Okay, motion by Member Krajewski, second by Member Rutledge. Okay, and Member Glassy, go ahead, please.
Sorry, could you just let us know when the deadline is for the survey?
Oh, yes, we're going to have it go to July 8th. Yeah, thank you. Okay, any discussion on the minutes? Member Guston?
And on the survey issue, I'm sorry. Do we know how the language was developed? Because I had gotten from residents some questions on some of the questions kind of being compound questions.
It was done through our strategic plan with our budget, through our strategic plan committee done, Very done. Complete.
Okay, company did it.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so any discussion on the minutes? Okay, all in favor? Opposed, the motion carries. We move on to budget transfers. Can I get a motion on FIR 9624 budget transfers 6/11/2024, various companies and county units? I have motion by Member Krajewski, second by Member Cahill. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed, the motion carries. We move on to item 7, procurement requisitions, and I'll call on Member Krajewski for finance.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIP 0015-24, recommendation approval of a contract purchase order issued to Riverdale Travel to provide travel management services for all DuPage County employees for contract not to exceed $307,088.
Had a motion by Member Krajewski, second by Member Cahill, and Member Desart seeking recognition. Go ahead, please.
I am. Thank you. Good morning. I have a memo from May 28th. Then the request was $254,588. And on that memo, it said it is unlikely the full amount would be spent. So now on this agenda, we see the amount going up 20%.
Okay,
If I
good morning,
may,
Jason.
thank you. Great question, Member Desart. So at the last meeting when we had a discussion on it, I asked for advice if we should also put it out to countywide electeds. That was not initial in the setup. I was given direction by this board to ask the countywide electeds if they would like to participate. That 20% increase is the couple offices that decided to participate. That full amount still won't be spent unless everybody spends that full travel amount, which is unlikely.
Okay, I understood that the countywide electeds were in on the initial price, because why wouldn't they be?
They weren't, because we were originally going to do it as a pilot program for the county board directed offices. But after we had our discussion, I took your guys' direction and went and got it so the countywides were.
All right, thank you, Jerry. Thank you.
problem.
Okay, thank you, Member Desart. Member Krajewski.
Just-
Hold on, Jason.
Just real quick, Jason, and I know it's a year contract, and I'll bring this up under old business, but there's still $750,000 left in this year's travel budget. So if everybody uses their budget, we wouldn't even finish this contract, and that's only for the next 6 months. We've only used 125,000 of the 856 budgeted. So if everybody uses their travel, you'd be coming back here in less than 6 months.
Okay, thank you, Member Krajewski. Member Rutledge.
I'll just say that I don't think anybody's going to the summer conference for NACO, so that's a big chunk of travel, so. If anybody's going, you need to make your reservations like this week, because the price will go up, but as far as the temperature, I don't think anybody's gonna go, so.
In terms of heat temperature or temperature temp? No. So, okay, great. Thank you. Do we have any further discussion on this item? Okay, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Kajewski?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIP 0017-24, recommendation for approval of a contract purchase order issued to Midland Paper to furnish and deliver bonding paper for all our county departments from July 1st, 24 till November 30th, 25, in the amount not to exceed $152,219.40.
Have a motion by member Krajewski, a second by member Guston. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Krajewski?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FICO 0016 recommendation of approval of an amendment to purchase order 6778 0001 for a contract issued to Amazon Capital Services, purchase of office supplies in the amount of $10,000, bringing the amended contract to not to exceed $791,508, 1.28% increase.
I have a motion by member Krajewski, second by member Yu. Member Cahill, are you seeking recognition? Okay, all right. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Krajewski?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move last on FICO 0017-24, recommendation approval of an amendment to purchase order 7006-0001, contract issued to Titan Image Group, purchase of printed business envelopes, various departments, amount of $3,000, bringing the contract amended not to exceed $35,995, a 9.09% increase.
Motion by member Krajewski, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, member Krajewski. We
you,
move
Madam
on
Chair.
to Human Services and member Schwartzy.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair. I move on item 241682, HSP 0088A23, amendment to resolution HSP 008823, issued to WellSky Corporation for the purchase of additional software and training for community services for the period of November 1st, 2023 through October 31st, 2024, to increase the encumbrance in the amount of $7,330 for a new contract total of $51,050.48, a 16.77% increase.
Okay, I have a motion by member Schwartzy, second by member Yu. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Member Schwartzy?
Thank you. I move on HSP 2124, recommendation for the approval of a contract purchase order issued to Professional Medical and Surgical Supply Inc. to furnish and deliver ostomy, tracheostomy, urological, and enteral supplies and services and enteral feeding formulas for the DuPage Care Center for the period July 30th, 2024 through July 29th, 2025, for a total contract not to exceed $58,000.
Have a motion by member Schwartzy, a second by member Cahill. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, member Schwartzy. We move on to Public Works and member Garcia.
Thank you, Chair. I make a motion to approve FMP 002524, recommendation for the approval of a contract to A-Lamp Concrete Contractors, Inc. for campus sidewalk repairs and improvements for facilities management for the period of June 11th, 2024 through November 30th, 2025, for a contract total amount not to exceed $2,730,447.30 for a lowest responsible bid.
Have a motion. Do I have a second? Second, I have a motion by member Garcia, second by member Yu. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Garcia.
I make a motion to approve FMP 002624, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Advantage Paving Solutions, Inc. for asphalt repairs at the 424 and 501 parking lots for facilities management for the period of June 11th, 2024 through November 30th, 2025, for a contract total amount not to exceed $436,065.52 per lowest responsible bid.
Okay, I have a motion by member Garcia, second by member Yu. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Garcia.
I make a motion to approve FMP 002724, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Excel Electric, Inc. to install a medium voltage B feeder extension on the West Campus for facilities management for the period of June 2024 through November 2024, for a contract total amount not to exceed $94,553 per lowest responsible bid.
Have a motion by member Garcia, a second by member Yu. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Garcia.
I make a motion to approve FMP 002824, recommendation for the approval of a contract to Ashland Door Solutions LLC to provide door maintenance, door sales, and installation as needed for county facilities for facilities management for the period of July 19th, 2024 through July 18th, 2025, for a contract total amount not to exceed $45,000 per renewal option under bid award 23080 FM.
Have a motion by member Garcia, second by member Yu. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Garcia.
And last, I make a motion to approve FMR 000224, a memorandum of agreement for the management of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency Climate Pollution Reduction Grant Award.
Motion by member Garcia, second by member Yu. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, member Garcia. We move on to stormwater. Member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on SMP 14-24. Intergovernmental agreement between the County of DuPage and Naperville Park District for permeable pavers at Community Garden Plots Project, agreement not to exceed $60,000.
Motion by member Zay, second by member Garcia. Member to start. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, you know me, I'm not one to give false praise, but I really do want to thank Chair Zay for supporting me and supporting this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on SMP 15-24. Enter in a contract issued to Farnsworth Group for on-call drainage professional engineering services, stormwater management from June 11th, 2024 to November 30th, 2025, amount not to exceed $60,000.
Motion by member Zay, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, member
Thank you,
Zay.
Chair.
We move on to transportation. Member Ozak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move for approval of DTP 003924. Recommendation for the approval of a contract to Hard Rock Concrete Cutters Incorporated for sidewalk saw cutting as needed for the Division of Transportation for the period June 11th, 2024 through June 10th, 2025 for a contract total not to exceed $45,000 per municipal partnering initiative bid, second of three options to renew.
Motion by member Ozak, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Member Ozak.
Thank you. I move for approval of DTP 004024. Recommendation for the approval of a contract to Max Body Shop Incorporated for auto body repairs for the period June 14th, 2024 through June 30th, 2025 is needed for a contract total not to exceed $79,900 per lowest responsible bid, first of three renewals.
Motion by member Ozak, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Ozak.
Thanks. I move for approval of DTR 002424, awarding resolution issued to Siebert Landscaping Company for the 2024-2025 Highway Vegetative Maintenance Program for an estimated county cost of $484,297.50 per lowest responsible bid.
Motion by member Ozak, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Member Ozak.
Thanks. I move for approval of DTR 002524, awarding resolution to Siebert Landscaping Company for the 2024-25 various highway landscaping programs for an estimated county cost of $276,125 per lowest responsible bid.
Motion by member Ozak, second by member Garcia. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Ozak.
Thank you. And finally, I move for approval of DTR 002624, intergovernmental agreement between the County of DuPage and Bloomingdale Township to extend road resurfacing beyond county right-of-way on multiple side streets along Swift Road within the township, county to be reimbursed $2,366.60.
Motion by member Ozak, second by member Cahill. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. You're done. Are you done?
I'm done.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. I crossed you off. Okay.
I
Thank
could
you.
find more. if
Thank you. Thank you, member Ozak. I had you crossed off and I'm like, okay. We move on to finance resolutions. Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0093-24, additional appropriation for the Corners Fee Fund in the amount of $24,000.
Motion by member Krajewski, second by member Cahill. Any discussion? Oh, member you, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair. I was wondering, This is to create a secured parking space behind fencing, and I just wanted to get a little bit more information about that. And also, if this is an additional appropriation, does this mean that it's coming from the general fund?
Do we have anyone that can, Dr. Jorgensen's here, so good morning, Dr. Jorgensen. You can come on up. Can you come up to the microphone, please?
She wasn't here for this, but happy to talk about it. We have had many instances where our employees who work 24/7, 365 have been in dangerous situations with family or the public coming to our office and such. So we have had the back part of our area fenced in for a year and a half now for safety. And I want to move all of our vehicles into this area to further protect our workers. And oh, by the way, this is coming out of the coroner's fee fund. It is no cost to the county. I'm paying for this out of our special fund. So.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Member Krajewski?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move on FIR 0094-24, accept an appropriation of the Illinois Department of Health Care and Family Services grant for $102,000.
Okay, I have a motion by member Krajewski, a second by member Guston. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Thank you, member Krajewski. We move on to county board resolutions, and I'll call on member Childress.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move on CBR 3024 resolution to establish DuPage County Disadvantaged Minority and Women-Owned Business Program, Enterprise Program.
I have a motion by member Childress, second by member Desart, and I have member Eckhoff seeking recognition. Go ahead, member Eckhoff.
I was talking to the state's attorney a little bit about this before the meeting started, but the administrator that's going to be working on this program is supposed to take a look at the contracts that the person is bringing to us to try to ensure that they have minority and women-owned businesses participating.
So the goal is set prior to the bid ever going out. If you think of it in terms of any contract, we have to determine what we will include for it to be responsive. So in any contract for construction, there's specs that go out and there's the departments involved, procurement's involved. This will be the same. The department will be involved, procurement and the administrator from this division. They will work together. The deputy CFO is the one that's in charge of this, but they're looking at the data from B2G now, which will show them for any given contract, what the availability is of contractors for that specific contract. And they'll be looking at the availability of women, the availability of minorities, and then they will set a goal for that contract. So that contract will go out before it's ever bid with a goal on it.
Okay, but then once the bids come in, they examine the bids to determine whether or not they've actually met that goal.
So procurement, it's part of their normal process on every bid to determine whether the bid is responsive. They have to meet all the criteria. And sometimes the bid is thrown out now because it's not responsive. Someone hasn't met all the criteria. With this, it would be just one more criteria that they have to meet to be considered a responsive bid.
All right, so if it's a responsive bid, then it makes it to the next process.
If it's a responsive bid, so let's say 8 people respond, and of those 8, hopefully all 8 of them are able to have responsive bids and they all are able to meet all the criteria. But I know the example, we had talked about earlier was if one of them was not able to meet it. Let's say one person says, I was not able to, there's a whole process. It's a good faith exception that they have to show. And in the policy, it says all the things the administrator would take into consideration. One of the criteria is, how did everybody else do? If you have 7 people that when they reached out, there was a community of subcontractors that could do the work, and one person says there was nobody, that's gonna vote against them for a good faith exception. And they may not get it because it doesn't necessarily appear that they did use good faith. There's some other criteria too. You have to reach out to the subcontractors 2 weeks in advance. It has to be in writing. It's a very set process that we wrote in the policy, so it's very objective.
Right, but my concern was that when we've had disputes here before as to what the most responsible low bidder is.
Responsive and responsible are 2 different legal words. So we're talking about right now just the responsive aspect of it. Responsive means you met all the criteria. Responsible is a whole different area of the law where we get into, let's say a contractor had done work for DuPage before and it was terrible work. That would be a different reason to exclude a contractor.
But I guess what I'm getting at is when we have these disputes and sometimes we've got people coming in and saying, I was a responsible bidder, and yet I've gotten bounced out of this, but I think that decision's wrong. Is the final decision as to whether or not they were up to the administrator or up to us?
The decision is the administrator. There is an appeal process, and that appeal process would go to somebody else. Our policy was I think it's 20 pages. So we wrote a structure of it, but we didn't put the minutia in it. We did not list who that person is that the appeal process would go to. We had thought we didn't want to make this hundreds of pages, and we wanted to hire the administrator and kind of work with it after that. But that's up for debate who the appeal is going to go to.
Yeah, well, it just concerns me that we're accepting or approving contracts that we wouldn't have the final say on. We're giving up.
You absolutely, just like every other contract, the county board would approve it. This is just the process before it ever goes out to bid.
Right, so it does finally come to us. for approval.
Yes, just like every other contract, it will come to county board for approval.
And so the administrator is gonna have to tell us how they met those criteria.
That will all be documented on every single contract.
And then I'm looking at page 1 of the resolution, and it talks about the disparity study found ample quantitative and qualitative evidence of current effects of past and present discrimination against MBE and WBE firms seeking to do business in the market area of DuPage County. And then I took a look at the study, and it seems like all the criticism is based on Cook County and surrounding entities. I didn't see anything where DuPage County did this, DuPage County did that. And it talks about firms seeking to do business in the market area of DuPage County, both as prime contractors and subcontractors, which to me infers that DuPage County, us, or past boards, and DuPage County current or past businesses have been discriminatory, but then I look at the study and it doesn't say that.
Someone was, I don't know if anyone else wants, I'll start this.
I know what you told me before, is that we can look at the entire surrounding metro area to determine whether or not that discrimination is.
But there's 2 aspects. It depends if we're talking about quantitative or qualitative. Quantitative was just based on DuPage County's marketplace and the contracts that it utilized versus the availability. That's all statistics. The other aspect of it that you need to have legally is the qualitative aspect, and that's the subjective portion where you need to hear from contractors and subcontractors. And the study looked at our whole marketplace. The courts have held that it can be passive. It's not necessarily an active discrimination. It could be passive, and that's why these interviews had been done in our marketplace already for other disparity studies like IDOT, the Tollway, Cook County. We were able to use those interviews from people, which are in the appendix of the disparity, and they discuss some discrimination in our marketplace.
Have we shown this study or this ordinance to Choose DuPage or Power Forward or anyone? Has anybody
Choose
grades and
DuPage has
sure-
been involved with the process for the last couple of years, yes.
Well, I know that they put forward their own, seem like their own proposal to do something like this. I'm just concerned that we're basically what we're saying is, hey, we, the county, businesses have discriminated, where I don't see anything in the study that specifically says that about DuPage County. Maybe other people have come forward and said, hey, an IDOT in Cook County and blah, blah, blah. But I just don't understand why we're using the word discrimination. To me, this is more of a situation like our grant proposals, where there's people who don't know grant proposals exist. They don't know how to apply for them. They don't know what to look for, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But just to throw out the word discrimination, and I sort of brought this up 2 weeks ago, but we're at the end of a 4.5-hour day. It seems to me that that's a big leap, especially for our county. The next thing, we're gonna change our motto to DuPage County, a great place to live and raise a family. And by the way, we discriminate in the past, but we're trying not to do it in the future. And that's not what I think we should be, the face we should be putting on our businesses or our government.
Keep in mind the as part of the study, we've gone through and we've figured out what's the availability of all these different groups out there, and then what is our number of contracts. And theoretically, what it does is it says, okay, if this is your availability, this is what should have been offered over time. And that's where it found out that there was a shortfall, and that's what it identified. And that's the discrimination that they're talking.
Why do you jump to the word discrimination? Why can't it be a lack of education, a lack of notification, a lack of a lot of other things other than, when you say discrimination, I think like that's a heavy, big stick.
So Grant,
that
just to be clear though, we cannot have a program unless there is at least some passive discrimination. And passive discrimination part of that can be the educational component that DuPage is going to work on.
What do you mean? There can't be the education?
The educational with our vendor fairs and, getting contractors and subcontractors.
And I will tell you, every step of the process up to this point has been based upon years and years of legal analysis, legal findings, court cases. And we have set this program up based upon, the verbiage, the wording, everything has been based upon many years of what has worked and what hasn't worked. And that is what's in front of you right now.
What do you mean, what has worked or what hasn't worked?
Legally, what has withstood legal challenges, what hasn't withstood. And so we have learned from all of those. And that's why we brought Colette Holt on board, in order to the final version that you have in front of you incorporates what's needed to make this the most defensible program available.
I'll let somebody ask a few questions with one more. I mean, are you saying that we can't reach out to minority and women-owned businesses and help educate them, to teach them how to participate unless we say discrimination?
So the one thing I will tell you is a huge part of this program that we're doing is education and reaching out and meeting with the industry groups to get word. Our goal is to get knowledge of our bids out there to as wide of an audience as possible. We want them, the more bidders we get, the better. So absolutely, that's going to be a huge component of what we do, is the education and the outreach.
But we have to say we discriminated actively or passively first, which I just have a problem with.
Okay, so I have on the list, I have member Yu, member Zay, member Garcia, member Krajewski, and member Guston. So member Yu, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I had several questions. The first being with regard to the reconsideration official, with regard to the appeal process, it says that it's a county representative that has not participated in the original determination. And so I just wanted to find out who determines who that county representative is. Is there going to be a list of county representatives that's like already set? I just wanted to know more about that process.
Do you want Nick? Nick, can you come up and address that?
Sure. So the question was, as we move forward with this, establishing what is the process if a vendor feels that something was done incorrectly and moving forward. And that's going to be part of the process, that once we bring an individual on board and we establish, as we said before, this process, the program will take probably a good year for us to really get this thing up and running. And part of that is the details we're talking about right there. We know this board, ultimately, you are the regulatory body that's going to make the decision. And all of the, if there's appeals out there, ultimately it needs to come to this board. And that will be part of the process. Everything we have, all of the different departments, the appeal procedure ultimately ends at this board. And this will be no different.
Okay. May I ask another question?
Yep, yes.
So then with regard to the contract goals, which, you know, has to do with the specific solicitation, are those contract goals going to be set by the user department? Or is it going to be set by the administrator?
That's a
I
great
just
question.
wanted to-
So as we said, every single project here that we're doing, and we're just talking about the construction and construction industry. So that's an important, point. The goals will be established project by project as we bid it out. And, ultimately, the program administrator will help set them, but they're gonna be in conjunction because a lot of the knowledge rests in the department. So it's going to be a team approach to figure out. And we are going to, we've got to figure out how to do this, and we need to get the process down. It will take a little bit, but everybody will be involved as we move forward.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Member Yu. Member Zay?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Nick, I have a couple concerns. First of all, we know for construction contracts, they're big contracts. They're tedious. Are we making this too tedious where we're gonna start losing people because they're saying, you know what? I gotta go to DuPage. I gotta jump through so many hoops. It's not worth me putting all this time and effort in to see if I'm the lowest responsible bidder. I mean, are we taking that chance at this point?
So obviously that's always a possibility, but I will say these programs are far and wide across the state. Many other agencies have them. We are kind of late to the game a little bit with this. So I would think that, this is common practice out there in the industry. And we have set a threshold so that it is a little bit higher for the bar of which contracts. You're not going to have to do a $15,000 or $20,000 contract. This is bigger contracts. Those contractors, the roadway contractors, the ones who build the treatment plants, they are used to this. I will tell you, we deal with it. All of us deal with it right now on our contracts. We deal with it in public works. Transportation deals with it with the requirements that are set by the state or the feds for that funding. So it's pretty common practice right now.
Right, but that's another thing that scares me. We might be doing the opposite of what we're trying to do. All these companies that have done business for years have these relationships, and the minority owned, the women owned, who are new businesses coming in, don't have those relationships. So on big contracts, they're gonna be all the time gonna be subs on them. If we did it on smaller contracts, they might be able to be the lead bidder on it. That's what I'm worried, is that might do the opposite where, okay, all these big companies know what they need to do. They've got their subs that they have. Newer companies that are established, that are trying to come in and compete, don't have those relationships. Then all of a sudden they can't bid on it, and they're going to be always put into this, minority owned, disadvantaged, woman owned business thing that they're going to be basically the subs all the time.
And that's one of the benefits of how we're establishing it contract by contract. So we are going to look at the industry to figure out what the industry can bear, what is out there, and establish it. And it's going to change every single contract based upon what the industry is. I mean, and this is not going to be, is it going to be perfect from day one? No, we're going to figure out, is it working? What can we change? How can we do it? We may come back to you and say we need to modify it, but it's one of those that until we get in there and see.
And that scares me when you say it's project by project. Now we don't have consistency. So now all of a sudden somebody bid on a contract and didn't get it because of X, Y, and Z. And so bids on the next contract and got it because of X, Y, and Z. Now all of a sudden we are not doing this as
the project by project is the most legally defensible. That's the test of time. If we do a straight percentage, it's the least legally defensible. And so by doing project by project, it is the most legally defensible.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Member Zay. Member Garcia?
Thank you. And thank you, Nick, because you explained a little bit of what I was going to say. We are kind of late to the game on this. And instead of putting the narrative that this is a discrimination thing, this is an inclusive thing. I think we're missing the word we should be using on that. We're being more inclusive in 2024. So I think this is a program that is well overdue in DuPage County, and I'm glad to see it coming here. So I just think we just need to just make sure that we're keeping our eye that we want to be somebody that does include the disadvantaged, the minority and women-owned enterprises. And I think we're going to get that with the bids that we get, whether it be the main contractor or subcontractors. So thank you.
Thank you, Member Garcia. Member Krajewski?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. So Nick, so like IDOT's already does work in DuPage and they have the requirements, but they have a specific 20% has to be disadvantaged or minority owned.
I'm gonna defer here. I know that I've dealt with a number of them. I'm trying to think.
So there is no straight percentage, 20%, 10%. It is a contract by contract. The goals are set on any construction contract, road contract, based on the availability of minority and women-owned contractors.
So they have a percentage in there?
There is a percentage
Right.
that's determined for each contract, but it's not 20% across all contracts.
Oh,
It
no,
may
it's-
be
it's
20% on one and
Right,
18% on another.
each contract that it's bid out,
Correct.
there's a percent.
We will have, when it's bid out, we will have a percentage in
But
there
is
as
it a
well.
requirement? I mean, because we're talking about, I mean, everybody, IDOT's been doing it, City of Chicago's been doing it, Cook County's been doing it,
Tollway.
Foley's been doing it.
Yeah.
Right, there's a percentage in each contract, but I mean,
There's an avenue.
do you let the contract go if it's 10%?
Yes, if the availability determines that the number of minority contractors that can perform the work is 10% on contract A versus 20% on contract B, then each contract would have a different.
Now that we got the expert up here from, since he sat there at IDOT, picking up on what.
Tollway, not IDOT.
Tollway, yeah, that's right, Tollway had mine, but, to pick up on what Member Zay said, I know you had the same issue over there, and then what he just brought up is a lot of these on the contracts we let are gonna be subs. You know, they come in as subs, and they can never become a prime. You ran into that at the tollway where they're doing the work, but yet they were never able to get a prime contract. And I think what, Member Zay is saying is that these are such big contracts, you're probably not gonna see minority get to become the prime. They're gonna be coming in on all these contracts as subs. And plus, they're all doing it already in the transportation and the building industry in Cook City, IDOT. So these are established firms. And I think one of the things we want to do, or I think we'd like to do, is have a lot more of these smaller firms that are just starting up, minority, women-owned firm, get contracts. And they don't know what to do. They're not educated. But in order for them to do that, they're not very big to begin with. So to have smaller contracts out there, meaning get outside. I know transportation's the one that's always been done out there for everywhere around us, but these firms already exist out there and are getting the contracts. So it's not really helping all these new startups, all these new minority firms.
Our limit, that just so the threshold where we said is 75,000. So the vast majority of our contracts that this county approves is between 75,000 and probably a couple 100,000. We do have some very big ones.
So I thought we're only doing transportation and the build, construction.
So transportation. So basically stormwater, facilities management, public works and transportation. The construction and construction industry related contracts in there. So engineering, anything in those. So those are the ones we're focusing on. That's kind of the tried.
But if I asked how many new startup minority firms and how many new women-owned firms have started up in the last 3 years, and then of that percent, how much is the little construction, this and that?
So Member
2%,
Krajewski,
1%?
and to answer Member Zay's question, it's been my experience that certainly the point that you're making is valid, that a smaller or a subcontractor to become a prime or to bid as a prime on a major contract is a big leap initially. But as diversity and equity and inclusion programs expand, as we did at the tollway, the opportunity exists for expanding the county program to include things like a mentorship program, which would help train those minority and those smaller contractors to eventually have an opportunity to bid as a prime, where otherwise, in all candidness, they probably never would have had that.
But to my question, of all the new startups, let's say over the last 3 or 4 years of women-owned firms, minority-owned firms, how many of them participate in the construction sector? I know you
that-
probably
that-
don't, you
that
probably
would
don't know
go-
that, but it's probably,
My experience is that would go to the data that
Right.
came out of our disparity study that would identify
but
how
I'm
many
guessing,
of them could.
but I'm
serve.
guessing that that is such a small percentage of all the firms out there. Just because we're only doing that specific thing, that means there's 99%. And then the last thing is, I think you ran into it at the tollway, is I think you ran into diversity among the minorities. Where you trying to get 20%, but yet one minority classification was doing most of the work. And trying to diversify among that. I think if I remember, the landscaping was like, all
Right,
these
and that-
contracts did landscaping for all their contracts, all of your minority goal of 20%. It all was landscaping to get it into the contract and how to diversify among the diversity, I think. And I think we'll run into that same issue. And that's more for you, Greg.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair comment, but my experience, and I would defer to the state's attorney, the federal government makes no distinction between a Latino contractor and African-American contractor. So the minority goal is blind,
Right.
if you will, to what subsect. And at the tollway and at IDOT and other agencies that have adopted this program, I mean, with the exception of the city of Chicago, that has more specificity to their minority participation goals, the tollway and IDOT did not. And whether it was a Latino contractor or an African-American contractor, that meets the requirement.
Sure, I understand it meets it,
Kind
but
of-
I think you're running the issue because it was one all sector and how you open up amongst minority.
Yeah, that becomes, and to member Eckhoff's point earlier, that becomes an issue of awareness and education, and that's what Choose DuPage had been working on with Connect DuPage and just vendor fairs and raising awareness within the minority and the DBE community on how to do business with the county or the tollway or any agency that has a program. And if I may, one additional point, and I know Barb and we talked about this at the state's attorney's level, you're not saying that discrimination exists within DuPage County. You are in fact saying that by adopting the program, that and words matter, you're right, Member Eckhoff, disparity exists within that industry, within your region. So what you're saying is in the construction industry, there is disparity amongst participation by minority contractors. You're not saying DuPage County is excluding anybody. You're not saying we have bad business practices. You're basically saying, as an example, in the construction industry, the amount of opportunity or the disparity is greater for a minority contractor than a non-minority.
But I think if I heard our state's attorney right, we have to find that we've passively discriminated in order to make this program legal.
Greg's talking about the qualitative aspect of it. And yes, I'm sorry, he was talking about the quantitative and there
Right.
is the qualitative aspect. And that's where we get into interviews with people. But again, it's in that construction and construction related fields. There's been a finding that there's been at least passive discrimination in our marketplace.
And that's why I think it goes to Member Eckhoff's question is there may be other factors that are involved on why they're not getting a lack of education, which I just heard. And that's a big one. I mean, I practice in this area with clients in the city of Chicago or Cook County, and I can tell you that there's certain ones get these contracts and bid on them and know how to do them. And there's other ones that just lack the knowledge on how to do it. And they don't get anything because their bids aren't responsive, their submittals are not, they don't submit everything. So there's a lot of reasons why certain firms don't get work. And I think that's where Member Eckhoff's going is there may be a lot of other reasons why they're not getting it, but it's like we've jumped to that conclusion. And I guess we have to say that it's a passive discrimination because we don't have that. We can't put the program in place.
That's
is
correct.
My understanding. And I think that's the issue I think Member Eckhoff's having is that we have to have but there may be a whole bunch of other reasons why that has nothing to do with discrimination, why these firms are not getting the contracts.
But Barb and Member Krajewski, again, if I may, as the program evolves and things like mentorship opportunities arise, that's what's designed to be addressed so that those firms that didn't know how to do it can partner with a prime who can educate them on how to do it, thereby increasing the participation of those minority firms.
Understand, and if we just forget this, we don't even do this program now, we just go out to and mentor and just educate people about how to become a firm, how to get contracts, how to submit your bids, how to do everything correctly. All of a sudden, we do a study a year from now, we find out, oh, wow, they're all getting them. You know, there's no discrimination. It was a lack of education. in your example. It's lack, and they get these contracts. Okay, now there is no discrimination. They're getting them because they were trained. They know how to do stuff. I mean, again, that's what I think Mike Rockoff is saying, is that there may be a whole lot of other reasons why, but I understand we have to find that they've been passively discriminated against. I don't think he likes the word that the prior county board, this county board has somehow passively discriminated against these firms when it could be a whole host of other reasons to do that. Thank you.
Okay, so on my list, I have member Guston, Ozark, you, Evans, and Cahill. So member Guston?
Thank you. Staff, do we anticipate seeing this expand from construction to electrical contracts? Do you?
I mean, the
Anticipate
program is set right now with what you would approve today if you approved it for construction industry. If it were to expand beyond that, this board would have to approve that.
One other thing and thank you for answering my questions on my Q&A. You talked about certified certified DBE, MBE, and WBE companies, that they have to meet requirement of the policy and then be certified under the Uniform Certification Program of the United States Department of Transportation by the Chicago Transit Authority, the Illinois Department of Transportation, Metra, Pace Suburban Bus, or the City of Chicago, or that is certified as an MBE or as a WBE by the City of Chicago or Cook County. Do we not, I mean, are those the only ones that will be able to participate in this program as long as they're certified by the City of Chicago or Cook County?
Oh, we gave a list of absolutely every agency that certifies, and if you're certified, we, DuPage County, would accept that. What we didn't want to do is create a whole nother program that makes these contractors, subcontractors certify. We didn't want to make the process more difficult. So we're saying we will accept these others. If something else is out there available, we will absolutely consider it. And if we need to modify this, we would bring that forward. But the list you have that's in here right now is exhaustive with what we know with the agencies that certify.
And then also, last question, and last meeting, I talked about veteran-owned, disabled veteran-owned firms. And it's not in this study, so I don't know if we have to do a totally separate study, or is this something that as this moves forward, that we can have another conversation or just include it as you know?
So as we discussed before, the disparity study that was completed did not include that group. And that was by design. The groups that we included is based upon, you know, the guidance, legal guidance out there. We can add other groups like veterans. Our recommendation that if we move forward, we approve this, we will get the data we need for veterans from the B2G. We can come back and revisit that issue at any time once we get a little bit of data to figure out, is there an issue with contracts with that group? And we can bring it back, and this board can, I mean, we've heard it loud and clear that the board is very interested in moving forward with veterans. We can gather that information and bring it forward and consider that.
Great, thank you.
And Nick, just to clarify that, we would have to determine if veterans are a discriminated group, correct?
So it's a little bit different than what was done for disparity. We do not need to, by the federal guidance, we don't need to do the disparity study we did, but we need to establish something. There needs to be a reason for including them, and that's where the B2G would do it. So it doesn't have the same bar, and Barb, please correct me if I'm saying anything incorrectly. It does not have the same bar as what we had to achieve for this, and nor should it be included in that. But we need to establish some reason, some methodology for why we are including.
Thank you, Member Guston. Member Ozog?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The first time I heard the terms WBE and MBE were in 1985 when I went to work for Metra. We worked in the station rehabilitation group. And the fact that we're talking about this 40 years on certainly to me shows the need for it. So I think we're discussing a lot of much finer points, but the bottom line is that the fact that we still need this 40 years on, you can call it discrimination, you can call it whatever you want, but the major issue here is that we want to heighten opportunity for groups who are not within the loop of these contracts. And so it's an ongoing process, obviously, if we're still talking about it 40 years on. Did we actively discriminate? No, I don't think that's ever been an issue. But to be able to welcome these groups who are trying to get their foothold into these industries is what we're looking to do here. And I think that what the state's attorney described sounds like a program that will be evolving. There's no question about it. But I think that I am 100% behind this. And again, the fact that we're talking about this 40 years on, I mean, I can ask the women here, have you ever been in a meeting room with all men? Is there ever a point? I mean, the months before we got on this board, it was 4 women and 14 men. So I'm speaking from the women's viewpoint, but all of this is still ongoing and we're 40 years into it. So I think that we need to go forward with this. Excuse me, I'm speaking. We need to go forward with this and let it evolve. And I think that it's been very well thought out. So I will be 100% behind this.
Thank you. And Member Ozak, you simplified that so beautifully. So thank you for that. Member Yu?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I just want to address some of the questions and perspectives of some of the members of the board today. I think it's unpleasant and sometimes difficult to hear, but let's call a spade, right? There are certain passive discrimination that's been happening. And as our state's attorney mentioned, this has been going on with the county for a long time. And the time to question the disparity study was when we were speaking with Colette, when we had our consultant come and explain during her presentation to talk about the quantitative, to talk about her methodology, to talk about the qualitative data, all of that stuff. That time has passed. Now, this is the time where we're talking about this particular policy that we're going to be going forward with, which, as Member Ozag mentioned, is far overdue. Many others have stated the same. This is progress. This is moving our county forward. And the fact that people are still mired in this is not discrimination or this is not, whatever it is, there has been a certain number of MBE, DBE, WBE businesses. There's been a certain number of availability, and those people have not been utilized for these contracts. I mean, it's very clear the data is there, right? And with regard to the veterans, like you stated earlier, the data is not there. We don't know that there's been discriminatory practices against veterans. So this in particular needs to go forward. I'm strongly in support of this, obviously, and I really appreciate the fact that Choose DuPage, that Greg Betelov came up and explained more of the process and why it's important, because if you don't make efforts to make partnerships or to allow opportunities for minority-owned businesses and women-owned businesses and the like, then it's never going to move forward. So this is a step forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Yu. Member Evans?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think I'm managing my own expectations for this. This is not here to right all the past wrongs of history. We have to start somewhere. And I think this is a great program. We don't want to boil the ocean. We're not going to get parity here because of this program, but I think it's great what we're doing, you know, and whether or not we are going to help subcontractors become prime contractors. Every company started small, well, almost every company, but, and what Choose DuPage and Greg Betelov is doing, that is the right thing to do. We need to find these companies. We need to mentor anybody who's thinking about doing business with the county. I've seen his work and it's great, but you know, he cannot run a company for someone. He cannot form a company. There's people that are out there that would probably be great entrepreneurs. They need the training, but they might not necessarily be out there right now. So this is a great start, I think. And, you know, we're not going to solve every problem with this, but I think it's a great step for DuPage County.
Agreed. Yes, thank you. Member Cahill?
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair. 2 points in one question. I totally support this 100%. However, I must say that I think it's good to have discussion and have people ask their questions. There's no time limit on questions. If some of the members have questions, we welcome them. We like to discuss that. That's what we do on this board. I am 100% supportive of this. I myself had a woman-owned business, a CPA firm, and bid on many contracts through the city of Chicago. Second, I'd like to ask a question. Some in the construction industry, subs included are like engineering firms and accounting firms. Is that correct? I mean, we're not just talking about a sub can be an engineering firm that works with the construction company.
So I would say yes, absolutely yes, for the engineering, surveying, things like that. Accounting, that probably wouldn't fall into that.
Okay.
And into
But some of
the
the other
group
smaller
we have.
professional woman-owned businesses may be able to participate in some of this construction contracts. Is that
Without a
true?
doubt. And I will
Okay.
tell you, so the one thing that this is doing, not only are we kind of establishing it, but there are subs who will now get opportunities who may not have been given opportunities from a prime
Right.
before. So
Correct.
they will shop the market more. And so you will bring more subs who maybe never did work, or consider doing work with the county to the table as part of it. But it is going to be construction related only. And that's the hard construction we're talking about, as well as all the planning, resident engineering, design, surveying. That will be. part
That's
of
wonderful.
this.
And I think that if the education process, we reach out to all these professional women-owned firms, that they may be able to find an opportunity to bid on this. So I think it's a great thing that we're doing, and I'm very pleased and 100%.
A huge part of this will be over the next year, the education that we're going to be doing. We're going to be reaching out to industry groups out there. There's different groups all over. And education is going to be the number one priority over the next year. Training them, letting them know how to do it, but more importantly, letting them know what we have to offer so that they're aware of it too.
Yeah, and I think we're focusing on the construction aspect, I think, because we've seen a historical data that women and minority-owned businesses have kind of been left out in this industry. So we want to promote them in the industry. Okay, so I have member Eckhoff and then member Krajewski. Okay, member Eckhoff?
Couple of points. Number one, I'm not questioning the study. I'm questioning the language of this agenda item. And I think that I'm supportive of the program, but I don't think we should just be focusing on discrimination. Nick just said, we're gonna educate. I think that needs to be in here. I think we need to define what DuPage County market area is. To make it clear that we're not necessarily talking about DuPage County, but we are talking about all these other entities that are listed in the study. So when I read this on Thursday or Friday or over the weekend, that's where I started to get concerned with the language of what's presently before us as an agenda item. And I think circle back to what Ms. Garcia said, she's right. This is to make the whole industry more inclusive. And our ordinance, our agenda item should say that. We're trying to do positive things. We're trying to educate. We're trying to include people, but it doesn't say any of that. And to Ms. Ozak's point about, well, this has been going on since 1985. That was the point I raised last time. This has been going on for 40 or 50 years and we're not getting the job done. Maybe this isn't the way to do it. I don't know. So to continue to do this over and over again, I'm just raising the question. Maybe we should think, hey, we're 40 years, we're not getting the job done, we're not including these people, we're not helping these people. Is there another way to do it? Maybe not. At this point, maybe we have to pass this. But I'm just raising the question that think about a 40-year project that doesn't accomplish its goal. I'm not sure it's good. So what I'm suggesting is that this agenda item be reworded to include the positive items that I think should be in it to define the DuPage County market area. So I'm making a motion to postpone this to the next meeting on June 25.
Okay. Do we have a second on that? No, there's no second. Okay, so Barb is going to address some of the questions and then
I'm not going to address all of that,
come
Member Eckhoff, but you did ask one question. I just wanted to make sure that it was clear because I know the presentation on the disparity study was a long time ago. Marketplace is defined. DuPage Marketplace is defined in the study. It's
I
defined
understand
as
the
where,
ordinance. I understand. I got it right here.
Yeah.
I got the
it's
whole 100
defined as
100
where
pages.
DuPage County does, for, the legal standard is 70% of where your dollars are spent. 89% of DuPage dollars are spent within 6 counties. So they're listed in the disparity study. It's basically the collar counties. When we look at the policy today before you, it says that it would adopt the disparity study. So it would adopt that definition. I just
No,
wanted to
I'm just
answer that
saying,
one
I think
question
it
for
should
you.
be in the agenda item. So if somebody reads this, they don't have to go find this and then read that.
And I might have Greg come up and speak to this, but it's my understanding that when these policies have been put in place, these disadvantage owned programs, that it has improved and the opportunities for these discriminated groups have improved and helped them, correct?
In short, yes, all I can say is that at the tollway, when we ran a program similar to this, which is still in existence today, and I'm assuming the county would do this as part of its program, we monitored where we started, and then we monitored participation by minority contractors. And we always with an eye to the disparity study and always with an eye to availability of minority contractors for a given contract. I think that's really important to recognize, contract by contract by contract, not an overall goal across an industry, but on each contract. We not only saw increased participation by MBWBE contractors, we increased the availability because they recognized there was more work. And then we increased the goals on the contracts as well. And then since it's been brought up, we did add a veteran-owned goal to all of the contracts that went out as well. And we were allowed to do that separately from DMWBE.
Great. Okay, thank you. So I have member Ozog or member Krajewski, did I call on you yet or no? All right, member Krajewski, then member Ozog.
Two things. One, I am supportive of this program. I'm trying to make it more expansive. That's why if some staff could just look at the statistics and get me again, how many minority-owned firms and women-owned firms, and then what percent is in the construction industry? And then Greg, I'm going to keep you up here, Greg. That's my first question, because I just want to see, I have a feeling we're going to see it's a very small group. And then to get into how this thing's really going to work is, you have experience at tollway. When a general comes in and does this work, the general is responsible for the project. So he's responsible for every one of those subs that are being brought in.
At the end of the day, yeah.
At the end of the day, yes. And so when they come to do the work here in DuPage, they're going to be responsible for these subs. So they're going to be responsible for the minority firms that come in. So these firms that are going to bid now in DuPage, they're already doing work. These general contractors, they're already doing work in the city of Chicago. They're already doing work at IDOT and the tollway. So they already have those requirements in place in these other jurisdictions. So if you go like your tollway, was AECom had the master contract. So they every 3 years, they got to do facilities review. So they bring in the sub to do those. The contract comes up again, they bring the same sub in. They bring the same sub in. They've already got their sub because they know that sub can do the job, that minority firm. If they bring a new minority firm in, they're not sure that they're going to do the work. So when these contracts open up in these construction things in DuPage, these contractors, these generals, they're going to have subs. They're going to go right to the same subs they're already bringing in that are minority in a number of the other counties, where they're doing it in, IDOT, the project up in my district, 87th and Woodward. If that was an IDOT contract, they had the minority firms on there. They're going to bring those same firms in that are already getting work on their other ones. I mean, we may get a few new ones, but we're going to wind up in the construction industry getting the same minority firms that these contractors are bidding on and have the relationships and know they have a good working history with them in whether it's the tollway or whether it's IDOT. Like Omega, when they did 294, they had the same subs, same minority subs that have worked on all their other contracts. And I know that majority of them have them, and they're always the same subs that do the work and the same minority ones. So we're going to get, with all this construction stuff we set aside in DuPage, we're going to get the minority participation of goals, but it's going to be the general guys, the big guys that are doing this work are going to bring in their relationship minorities that they already have experience with. They already know they have a good working relationship, and because they don't want to have it messed up, because then they don't get the next project here. Or if there's a new firm comes in, there's a problem on it, they got to fix it. maybe they get bad scores on a project, they don't get the next one when they come in. So that's in reality, I think, how this construction thing is gonna work. We may get a few new ones, but most of these minority firms that are coming in the construction area are gonna be the same ones that have been doing work for IDOT, CTA, Tollway, any of these other certified ones. I know why we're using those, because they all have reciprocity, so we don't have to have DuPage set up a new program. I'm just trying to say we should make it more expansive in the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Krajewski. Member Ozag? And then I have Member Tornatori and Member Yu. Member Ozag, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This discussion has now gotten so far in the weeds that I think that we really need to consider calling the question.
Yep.
This is, if there wasn't discrimination, there wouldn't be an issue here. There was discrimination 40 years ago. There's discrimination now. All we can do with a program like this is plan and try to heighten opportunity. So I would like to call the question.
Okay, thank you. Is anybody, I mean, Member Yu, did you have any more comment? You're okay. Member Tornatori, did you want to, I know Member Tornatori has not had a chance to speak.
Yeah, I'd like to say something
Yeah,
if I could. And I think you'll be happy about this, Mary. I support the resolution. I support the program. I will be honest with you, I'm not crazy about our state's attorney and the passive discrimination that we need to get this in, but I'm going to let that slide. I was happy to hear Greg say that this is more about discrimination in the industry as opposed to discrimination at the county. And to Member Eckhoff and some of the other people, I'm just going to quote, one of my favorite phrases: let's not let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Okay, we've got something here. If for whatever reason it's not working and the same people are coming back again 6 months from now, a year from now, then we'll revisit it and we'll fix it. That's what we do. So, I'm not crazy about all the language. Certain words are buzzwords and they get everybody riled up one way or another. It's a good program. It's what we're trying to do. I'm happy that we're making an attempt to fix this situation that has been around for not as long as I've been alive, but for a long time.
Yeah.
So the reality is that, I think we can move forward on this and rely on our administrator and on the people who are running the program to come back and tell us if it's working from time to time.
Thank you, Member Tornatori. Okay, all right. What was that? Okay, so we are going to end discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Oh, member,
call.
please, roll call? Okay. Do we have to have a roll call? We can have
Okay, then just.
Member Grant, please show Member Grant voting no. I mean, Member Eckhoff, sorry, Member Grant Eckhoff voting no. So, okay. All right, thank you, Member Childress. Oh, we didn't have a second on the call the question though, did we? To call the question? Wait, do we have to call the question? Or can you remove your? But do we have, but if there was no second, do we have?
She
to do
just
it?
lost it for nobody seconded, so we just voted now.
Oh. Was there, did we have a second on the call to questions? Oh, okay, so, all right. Okay, so I guess we're voting on calling the question. All in favor to call the question? Any opposed? Okay, now, all in favor on the motion? Opposed? Please show Grant Eckhoff voting no. Okay, thank you. We move on to informational and I will call on Member Krajewski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to receive and place on file informational items, A, payment of claims, and B, wire transfers.
Have a motion by Member Krajewski and a second by Member Cahill to receive and place on file. Oh, Member Guston to receive and place on file. Payment of claims and wire transfers under informational. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Do we have any old business? Member Krajewski and then Member Zay.
You can let Member Zay go first.
Member Zay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank Member Cahill. Every board member has a right to speak on any issue. And for a board member to get up just because they're passionate on something and say that we shouldn't be talking about it so the time has passed is ridiculous. I think a lot of us are in favor of this. I'd like to see it actually expanded to accounting, to IT, to other departments. So we actually are going to make a difference. Not in an industry that's been out there for construction for years and we know what's going to happen, but to actually make a difference and have this expanded. I'm glad to hear we're going to do education. So hopefully in the next year, we do the education, we can expand this program to other departments, to IT, to housekeeping, to whatever it is, to bring more businesses into the county that now will have the opportunity to do so. But again, just because you're passionate on one issue on one side and somebody's passionate on the other side, don't try to cut conversation off or call the question or whatever. That's just, if we're gonna do that, then I guess we gotta do that in committees. We gotta do that, you know, in every other meeting. I mean, again, everybody has a right to speak in here, no matter what side issue. And I don't remember anybody saying they were against the issue, maybe except Member Eckhoff. We're just making sure that this is gonna do what it's intended to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Zay. And I always encourage discussion here. I had people talk after we had the motion to call the question, but you know, using words like ridiculous and things like that too is not very appropriate either. And I think we need to keep our conversation civil here and be professional when we're addressing each other. But to, you know, use, and I know you've said calling others ridiculous before, so I just don't think that's appropriate. But thank you for your comments. And we do try to encourage discussion as much as possible. Member Krajewski.
Sure. Two real quick items. First, I know you brought up about a little over a year ago, you had like a member initiative Points for Success that you brought forward and everybody funded that 100%. So I know if any of the board members were at the Choose DuPage breakfast on Thursday, I know Greg Bedeloff I think Gail was there and actually had the big screen up there showing that to the business community. So again, you know, we try to encourage some of these not-for-profits to help, you know, one, fund them, but also help get their name out there so they can get additional funding, et cetera, let people know. So I know you brought that forward and Greg Bedeloff did a good job of putting that up in the big screen there. So it was good for Points for Success. Second, I guess we're shouting out to Member Cahill again, but Member Cahill brought up the issue on the travel expense.
Yes.
As we were talking about the travel agency, and was kind of shocked when we heard that, you know, we've only been spending as a board or county about 300-some thousand a year. But I think Jennifer mentioned we've been budgeting 800,000. So I just gave everybody, or had Nick pass it out this morning. This is the travel budget for the last 4 years that you can actually take a look at if you want. The gray areas are our budget, and then the 2021, 2, 3, and 4 actuals are there. And you can see in 2021, we budgeted 490,000, but only spent 100. We budgeted the next year in 22, only 600 and some thousand. We only spent 200, almost 800,000 last year. We only spent 300, and we budgeted 800,000 to date this year. And halfway through the year, we've only spent 125. So we've never, ever spent anywhere close to what our budget has been. In fact, you know, $500,000. And just one drill down, I met with Greg last week. I told him ETSB budget is 100,000 every year, and they've never used more than 35,000. In fact, 25, and they've only used 2 this time. So a lot of these different departments and EOs are using the budget as potentially spots where they can then do budget transfers if they want to do something instead of coming to our board. So I think as chairman of the various committees, as we go forward and develop these budgets, we need to make sure that their budget number they ask for is closer to what they've actually been using. The last 4 years, and then maybe Jeff could give that to us, board members, we've come up with super large surpluses at the end of every year, you know, 20 million, 40 million. Half of it is because revenues are a little higher than what we anticipate. We're a little conservative, but the other half is we never spend what we budget. And we probably need to get back closer to what it really is. But travel is just one line item, but it's a good example. And Jeff is, you know, in talking to him last week said, you know, they're almost like slush funds that they can go to. And they just said, they don't need any money from us. They just transfer it. We got the money in our budget. We're going to move it from A to B. And we see that we vote on these all the time. We keep asking about these transfers. But this is a good example of a history of we've never been anywhere near the numbers that they budget. But yet if they need something, they'll just come and say, oh, we got it in our travel budget. We'll just move it over to buying paper clips. So again, just this for everybody's, you know, to look at, but just as you go forward and your heads of your committees and the committee members, just as you look at the budget, just kind of look at what they've spent the last few years. And if for some reason a new program is going in place, like I know member Schwarzy's looking for $1 million for net food and security, then we're always here to understand what they need and give them that money. But when you have a history here of never going, spending that money for travel, then the number should be a lot less. And then we can take that 500,000 and maybe use it for food insecurity or for some other program that this board feels is important. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Krajewski. Member Glossy?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And I just also wanted to thank Member Cahill and Member Krajewski for bringing this point forward. And I couldn't agree more. The whole point of a budget process is to really understand what each department needs and then see what our excess is. And as the ARPA funds are coming to a close and we see these needs, I know Member Krajewski just mentioned, but food insecurity, we're working on, you know, the affordable housing issues. We need to understand exactly, or let me say, not exactly, but much more precisely what the funds are that we have to work with. And if we're dealing with these excesses year after year, then this isn't really a proper budget process in my opinion. So I couldn't agree more. And I'm hoping that as we go through the next budget season, that these, you know, budgets are a lot more close to the historical actuals that we're seeing here. So thank you to our two members here for bringing this up.
Yes, and thank you, Member Glossy. And as Member Krajewski said, as you're going through these in committees, that's the place where those really need to be addressed. And I know when Member Krajewski and I were on the Water Commission, this was a big issue that we had at the Water Commission because they budgeted budget to budget instead of budget to actual. And it took a long time for them to then budget actual to budget, right? So, and Member Glossy makes a great point. A lot of board members here have never done a budget without the ARPA funds or CARES money, and it's a whole different process. And, you know, we're not going to have disposable money to give to for food or for housing or for businesses or things like that. So we're really going to have to shore that up, get our budget, rein it in a little bit. And if we do have any expendable funds, then we can put that in those areas. So I do appreciate that. And then Member Cahill. Oh, okay. Member Ozog and then Member Guston. You two sound alike. You're both beautiful. So, okay, go ahead.
Madam Chair, I hope you meant discretionary versus disposable.
Well,
We
discretionary,
never
yes,
disclose
yes,
any
yes,
money.
discretionary,
Just
yes,
wanted to
yes,
point that
yes,
out.
yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, because words are important. Thank you. Okay, and Member Guston?
Thank you. I question for staff on this, and I agree with everyone. Things need to be tightened in and be more effective on what they're budgeting for certain things. Do we have any policy in place that says if you're budgeting a certain dollar figure and you spend only a certain percentage, let's say 5% of the 100% that you've budgeted for, do we have any policy in place that corrects that? Or that we can put a cap and say, if you budget for something and you're not doing 100% of it, you know, you need to not go 20%, 10%, 5%, whatever that looks at from a policy perspective.
No, we don't have that policy in place. That would work for the county board departments. The countywide elected departments, they would not be able to comply with that. At the time of the budget process, we could realign that. But we don't have that formal policy in place, where if you don't spend your prior year's budget, you're automatically cut. I think this
And
is a
it
great.
wouldn't be automatically cut 100% or anything like that, just a small percentage to kind of bring it down automatically on itself by non-use.
Yeah, we don't have that in place.
Okay.
What we do is we try to meet with the departments, and when we have these budget kickoffs, and we're going through the process right now, is we do relay that message. If you haven't spent it in the past, please look at your history. Please look at your prior year's budgets and bring that down. So I'm glad this discussion came up because we're right in the middle of the budget process. And one of the things that came up was committees. It's so important in committee, and we will give all the board members who head the committees all the documentation and the budgets just like this to see what has been actually spent, what has been budgeted. And I think it would be very beneficial and helpful to staff to have that feedback on what you actually, where you actually want to set these budgets at based upon prior years. So, yeah, I mean, I think we really appreciate this discussion right now. It's very helpful for us. But Member Krajewski was right. I mean, we're going to talk about the budget where we're currently at in fiscal 24, and you're going to see again, the trend is probably underspending in all of the main categories: personnel, contractual, commodities. You know, we're on track again to underspend. Personnel, we understand because we're still, our head count is still way down. So, but I think Member Krajewski's brought that up in the past too. It may be time to take a look at what those headcount needs are again during the committee process.
Well, I think Jeff, and maybe you bring up a good point, because I asked for this last year on some of them. I mean, we understand headcount, and whether it's a sheriff, he's short a bunch of people, but we've had certain areas where they've been, you know, consistently headcount for 4 or 5 years, whether they've been short 5 people for 5 years, maybe they're down 8 or 9 now. And man, you ask to try to cut one and list it, but they've been running a department for 5 years, and maybe there's not a need for some of those. And again, they like to have that. And so then they can move stuff amongst payroll. And if they have, you know, they can make raises or do whatever they want in the EO side. But, and we always budget a little less than 100%, but I think that would be a good thing for all the chairs and the committees to have is what's the history of open headcount in these various areas for the last 5 years. And I think we'll see some of those where you can actually just, and again, we've never paid them, so they're not there. And then the flip side, you mentioned the expenses, the revenues, and maybe we should have a report on that 6 months now into it. But we're tracking higher, you know, probably going to finish 3 to 4 million over in sales tax. Our income tax is going to be probably $1 million higher than budgeted too. So the revenues 6 months into it are exceeding also, in addition to your expenses being under. So, you know, we're on track for another pretty large surplus, at least 6 months into it.
Yeah, we are having a presentation next meeting about our revenues. And yeah, and I can't stress enough either, because as Jeff said, that's why we have our committee meetings. And when we are in the budget process, that's your opportunity. Staff recommends, but if you don't like the budget they put together, if you see that, hey, last year we spent 100,000 in travel, but we're budgeting 600,000, you know, that's for us to bring that down then and say, no, we want this brought in tighter. So, you know, that's the point of our committee meeting. So we really need to do that work in the committee meetings, and then that gives staff the direction of where they want to go. So they're giving us the recommendation, but then it's up to us to really do the deep dive and make those adjustments.
Well, as a follow-up with the head count, do we fund that money for those vacant spots that haven't been filled and may not be filled? And is that money in the budget for that department? And then it's in the budget department, you know, it's in their
Yeah.
budget, or do we not fund that head count and it comes some other way? I'm assuming we fund it, and then that department can use it as they please if they can't get those heads,
Yeah.
seats, you know, bodies in the seats.
So we have made a concerted effort to try to, we haven't cut the headcount that's been approved by the board, but we've cut some funding, knowing that it's not realistic that all of that headcount will be funded. So it has been scaled back. The headcount hasn't been taken out of the budget. And we've had departments that have told us openly that they're actively recruiting, but they're struggling getting the employees. So what we've done is put some of those dollars in contingencies, taking it out of the department budget with the agreement that if they do spend it or need it during the year, we'll transfer that back to those departments.
Good
So
idea.
And we just started that a couple years
a
ago.
couple of years ago,
Yeah.
we've done that,
Thank
and
you.
that's helped quite a bit. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Member Krajewski, go ahead.
Yeah, just one next thing for some of the newer board members. This thing that you did for travel, and now we use this off our system. This is much more easy for us, just to let some of the newer board members know. Every department used to, yeah, good job, Jeff, because every department used to come, they used to come with all these different spreadsheets, and they'd have their own Excel sheets. Some would have just budget to budget, some would have actual budget. And it was almost impossible to figure out, even at committee level, what people were spending. And then finally, you know, we made an effort to get everybody in the same one. We almost got it there, but this is real easy for us to look at, compared to every EO and every department that had all their own little budgeting spreadsheets that they would bring. And I know, remember Chaplin knows it's not our head, but they used to come with these things and you're like, budget, the budget. What was your actual, bring it back. And now it's all uniform. So this makes it so much easier for us to do our job.
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yes, thank you. Okay, so then, oh, I have member you and then member Glassy. Member you, go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. Before we close, old business, I just wanted to address the allegation that I don't appreciate robust discussion or asking of questions. And I just wanted to state that I ask questions all the time and I appreciate questions, except when the questions have been asked and answered by Nick and by our assistant state's attorney and by Greg Bedeloff and so on and so forth. I just want to state that, yeah, if it's been asked and answered and the discussion is no longer robust, then the question should be called, just as Member Ozog did. Thank you.
Thank you, member you. Member Glassy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is just another last question for Jeff. This is so informative and easy, like has been mentioned, easy to read. Are there any other line items in the overall budget that have this much of a disparity?
A lot of them,
Okay. Yeah.
A lot of,
Okay.
yes.
a lot of them. Yeah.
Is there any way you could flag those for us, like the top 5 or 10 that have these major disparities, just so we could drill down and see?
Yeah, there's a number of ways of doing it and, I think we can bring that forward at our next finance committee meeting because we are discussing the budget.
Okay.
So we'll take a look at, some of the line items that have maybe a plus 5% variance or something like that,
Yeah.
or a certain dollar amount, and we could flag that. Yeah, that's all. We're able to do that.
I think that would just be very helpful. I mean, just seeing this like this, if we could see that, like I said, like the top, whatever it is, anything that's a material amount that the variance is year after year after year, I
Yeah.
think it's important for us to drill down to
Sure.
that. Yeah. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, member Glassy. Member Krajewski.
Maybe, remember Chaplin and Jeff, you guys send something out to all the EOs and all the department heads telling them that when they're starting to prepare their budget to bring it forward, they need to start looking at the actual, kind of like we told them last year, remember that, or 2 years ago when we were making big raises, we asked every EO, come to us with what you need, and we wanted them to do salary surveys. We made, everybody go out and do a salary survey and then come and show us how much is, we're underpaid compared to whatever, and we've made big raises. I think we only had one EO that did not come forward with that, but we gave that in advance and we kept saying, bring that to us. We'll be happy to, give you extra money. So I think we need to give the directive now, as they're developing their budgets, to come forward, to start looking at their actuals and get their line items closer. Maybe, Chair and Jeff can send something to them.
We do a budget kickoff and that message has been conveyed again in our documentation, in our discussions with the department. But again, when departments do presentations at committee, they're going to talk about their goals and their projects, but it's also important to drill into the numbers too.
That's right. Thank you. Okay, so any other items under old business? Any new business? Okay, I am advised we do have executive session. So pursuant to the Open Meetings Act 5 ILCS 120/2 collective negotiating matters, I ask those not with executive session to please exit the room. I'll take a motion to go into executive session. I have a motion by member Tornatori, second by member Yu. Can we have a roll call, please?
Cahill. Member Cahill. Chaplin.
Aye.
Member Childress.
Yes.
Member Covert. Member Desart. Member Eckhoff. Member Evans.
Aye.
Member Galassi. Member Garcia. Member Guston. Member Krajewski. Member LaPlante. Member Ozog. Member Rutledge. Member Schwarzy. Member Tornatori. Member Yu. Member Zay.
Okay, thank you. And we can open the doors now, I guess, and get back on. We're back on. Are we on? Okay, they're opening the doors. Okay, doors are open. Okay, I would like to take a roll call to establish quorum out, entering back into full session.
Member Cahill, Member Champlin,
Here.
Member Childress,
Yes.
Member Covert,
Here.
Member Desart, Member Eckhoff, Member Evans.
Here.
Member Galassi, Member Garcia, Member Guston, Member Krajewski, Member LaPlante, Member Ozak, Member Rutledge, Member Schwarzy, Member Tornatori, Member Yu, Member Zay.
Okay, we do have a quorum. So now we move on to item number 14, matters referred from executive session. Can I have a motion on FIR 9724, authorization of a contract with Metropolitan Alliance of Police, Chapter 174, Coroner's Office? Member Desart, did you make the motion? And Member Gus made the second? Any discussion on this item? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries, and without objection, we're adjourned.